Hi there, I'm Barry Baumgardner, founder of Sage Event Management, and today I want to talk to you about one of the big mistakes that event hosts make every single day. Now, I've recently shared 2 other videos on common myths and misconceptions about live events, and today we're going to talk about one that I think costs event hosts money every single day. Let me tell you a quick story to give you an example. So recently we took on a brand new client and we were analyzing her food and beverage cost and her hotel bill and how she was spending her money at her live events. And one of the things I immediately noticed was she was paying rental on her smaller events. And when we talked about it, she said, well, I've always thought if I could just pay rental, it really saves me money on not having to spend anything on F&B. So I gladly pay the rental so that I have 0 liability on food and beverage. I said, okay, that makes sense. Are you spending any money at all on food and beverage? And she said, oh yeah, well, I do host a reception and I like to give them breaks during the day to keep their energy up, but I don't have to because I'm paying rental. So that's the myth and misconception, because here's the deal. If you pay even a little bit in food and beverage, you can almost always offset that room rental. And think about it. Would you rather pay room rental, which no attendee can see? No attendee has any idea that you've spent money with the hotel and room rental. Or would you rather spend your money on food and beverage, which allows you to wine and dine the attendee, to give them something they'd really enjoy? As she was rightly thinking, it does keep the energy up. It does, I think, involve some reciprocity with the attendee, which I always think is a good thing. And if you can do that in a way that allows you to make your attendees happier and save you money, why wouldn't you do it? I think it's because most of our event hosts do not fully understand how food and beverage with the hotel work. So let's take a quick look at how you can save money. So first of all, if you are not spending any money on food and beverage at your event, whether it's a mastermind, a group program, a 3-day event, if you are adamantly opposed to spending any money on food and beverage, then yes, you probably are going to spend some room rental, and yes, it may be better for you to do that. But if you're considering spending any amount of money on food and beverage, then you are going to come out ahead by going ahead and committing to that in advance. You'll eliminate the rental, you'll get better service from the hotel, and you'll get better concessions. Because here's a little secret that no hotelier will tell you, but it's the truth. Hotels like to keep their staff working. So when you pay rental, they do make more money on it. It's 100% profit margin, which every hotel is delighted to get. But it's kind of a bummer for them if you don't do any food and beverage, because all of these team members that they pay don't come to work, don't get paid, don't accrue hourly hours if they're not on the floor helping to serve food and beverage. Hotels like to keep their people happy, and part of how they do that is food and beverage. And there is actually a pretty good profit margin on food and beverage, so it's a nice little offset, which is why they're willing to swap it out in place of rental in almost every case. But if you're going to go this direction, I want you to think about how to do it. You may be thinking that a food and beverage minimum means that you have to serve breakfast, lunch, and dinner, 3 squares a day. But I'm not trying to convince you to serve them every meal. I think you can be really selective. Think about your audience. Think about your event, the pacing of your event, and what you think would give you the most return on your investment for that food and beverage investment. Know that all of these things count toward food and beverage. A coffee break, even if it's just coffee and tea, a coffee break, snacks for attendees, whether it's cookies, whether it's fresh fruit, whether it's bagels in the morning, all of those things count towards your food and beverage minimum. A hosted bar, and think about this, a cash bar. A cash bar means that the attendees are buying the drinks, but every drink they buy counts toward your food and beverage minimum. So the attendees are actually paying for your food and beverage minimum. So whether it's a hosted bar where the drinks are free or a cash bar, both of them count towards your food and beverage minimum. And the last one, and this one people often forget, staff meals. I'm a big believer that a well-fed, well-hydrated staff is a happy staff. They'll work far harder for you if they're well-fed and taken care of. This doesn't mean putting out a massive display of food for them. But even simple snacks in the staff office that they can grab and go, or coffee and tea, or a scaled down lunch buffet to make it easy for them to grab lunch. All of that counts towards your food and beverage minimum. So here are the steps that I recommend to stay focused on how to spend your food and beverage and how to negotiate a minimum. First, you want to look at the hotel's menu and get a good sense of their pricing per gallon, per piece, per person, per item, per plate, etc. You want to get a sense of all of their pricing, pour hors d'oeuvre, all that good stuff. Then you want to lock in the menu prices at the contract signing so that they can't change on you between the time you sign the contract and the time you have your event. At that point, you can even do some basic negotiation. Hotels will often give you a flat fee discount, like 10% off of all pricing, or locking in this year's menu plus 10% discount, or even locking in a discounted rate for select items you know you want to serve. But that needs to be done at contract signing. Once you've looked at the menu, you've locked in your pricing, and you've thought through the number of people you realistically expect to have at your event. This is not your wish list, this is true goals, what you really think are going to attend for each of those meal functions. Multiply it out, do the math, and come up with a collective number. Let's say that you're going to do coffee breaks every afternoon and you're going to host a welcome reception. You'd multiply all of that out, look at the combined amount of food and beverage you would spend. And then I like to recommend, especially if you're new at this, subtract 20% just to give yourself a comfortable buffer between what you realistically think you're going to spend and what you're going to have to spend, right, in that food and beverage minimum. Typically, hotels are going to charge you the difference if you don't hit your minimum, unless you can negotiate profit margin in there, which is essentially saying, if I fall short, I'll pay you your profit margin, which tends to be 35 cents to 50 cents on the dollar. That's a high level move. Don't feel like you have to do that one. But if you have a hotel willing to give you profit margin, it can limit that liability even further. Even if you can't get profit margin, you're still going to be in a better place committing to this flat F&B minimum. And what I mean by a flat F&B minimum is you've ganged up all of your expected meal cost into one flat fee. That's what you have to spend with the hotel. Don't let the hotel force you into saying you will serve a reception at this price point for this number of people. That's a no-go. You want to combine it all together into a flat minimum. Here's the benefit of a flat food and beverage minimum. You can choose to spend the money however you want. So let's say you change your mind and decide not to do a reception. Instead, you want to do a lunch on the first day. That's perfectly fine. When you have a flat F&B minimum, you choose how to spend the money. It doesn't matter whether you want to do coffee and tea, add snacks, cut snacks, totally up to you until the last 72 hours before the event. So it gives you a lot of flexibility to navigate how you're going to spend the food and beverage based on the number of people you have. That risk limits your risk and your liability and allows you to provide a really awesome experience for your attendees. I hope you found this information helpful, and if you'd like to check out more of my videos, including the last two in this series that covered common myths and misconceptions when event hosts are planning their events that cost them lots of money, for example, rooms and room attrition and ordering food per person, go to my video blog at blog.poweredbysage.com. And as a quick recap, I just want to remind you, if you're thinking about planning your next event, you haven't yet committed to the hotel contract, if you're not going to be paying rental, you want to really negotiate a flat F&B minimum. It really can pay off for you, not only in spending less at the hotel, but providing a really extraordinary experience for your attendees. Much like the other risk in live events, you do want to do the homework before committing to the flat F&B minimum. So do the math, be conservative, but commit in advance and know that part of this commitment is part of being a real host, running a real live event. It does come with risk, but with careful and proper advanced planning, you can mitigate those risks and save yourself a ton of money. Trust me, you can do this. Go team, go. We'll see you next time.